Breaking today, the Daily Mail has cried an overwhelming vindication after the dramatic £50 million courtroom win against the Daily Mail, as new questions are being asked about the state of Prince Harry's marriage to Meghan Markle as she stayed away from his darkest moments, with onlookers saying he looked to be a broken man at Chatham House. Let me show you the front page of today's Daily Mail. A historic headline, one word, vindicated. But you can see the front page too of the Daily Star, which declares that Prince Harry is now hacked off. And that's for sure, isn't he? And Harry caned is the headline on the front page of the Sun newspaper. But the problem is, Harry can be as defiant in defeat as he wants. But his life's work is now in tatters. He tried his best, as the Daily Telegraph reported, to grin and bear it at Chatham House. However, as Hannah Furness, the royal editor who was there, reported, Harry is not known for his poker face. He is a heart-on-sleeve sort of person, for better and for worse. And the court case result was etched all over his face. And for very good reason. Because he can come out and claim, as he has, that the judge in the case, Justice Nicklin, is responsible for a whitewash and that this is all some type of great big conspiracy. But we can all sit here and laugh and poke at him and say, you have turned yourself, mate, into a humiliation. Because the High Court judgment found that Harry gave limited evidence on the issues at the heart of the case and strayed beyond factual evidence while in the witness box. In other words, he lied. The Duke and other claimants are open to criticism for the way they pursued extremely serious allegations that senior associated staff lied to the Leveson inquiry into press standards. Evidence gathered by the legal research team behind the claims was unconvincing and inconsistent, perhaps because so many of them were criminals. The evidence of a private detective whose alleged forged statement led to Harry, Elton John, Doreen Lawrence and Elizabeth Hurley joining the action was comprehensively undermined. So as Richard Eden of the Daily Mail posted, let's be clear here, Prince Harry is accusing a High Court judge who serves the Crown of a whitewash, i.e. a cover-up or corruption. How can King Charles allow Harry to remain a Councillor of State who is legally entitled to stand in for the monarch? Let me answer that, Richard Eden. He can't. Calvin Mackenzie, former Sun editor, writing, grateful if Harry would take his unpaid legal bills, his conceit, his hatred of the UK, and his heartlessness to his sick father and F off back to Montecito. Andrew Fox described the situation as remarkable and added, importantly, remember, in a civil case, the burden is 51%, more likely rather than not. Harry couldn't even prove that. He added, it's so sad. I remember him at Sandhurst as a lovely bloke, but thicker than multiple planks. I hope whoever is advising him gets a grip. The problem is there's one person advising him. Her name, Meghan Markle.
Prince Harry has never been far from controversy. Whether it's explosive interviews, headline-making memoirs, or years of legal battles against Britain's biggest newspaper groups, his decisions have consistently divided public opinion. Supporters argue he is standing up for accountability and protecting his family's privacy. Critics believe his relentless courtroom campaigns have only deepened the divide between himself and the institution he once represented. But this time, something feels different. After his latest legal defeat against Associated Newspapers, the publisher of the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday, the conversation has shifted. Instead of asking whether Harry was right to pursue another lawsuit, many royal commentators are now asking a much bigger question. Has this court loss become a turning point, not just for his legal campaign, but for his future as a royal figure? Today, we're breaking down exactly what happened inside the courtroom, why the ruling has generated such intense debate, how Prince Harry responded, and what this could mean for his public image moving forward. Because while one court case may have ended, the questions surrounding Harry's relationship with Britain, the royal family, and the public appear far from over. If you enjoy thoughtful royal analysis that separates verified developments from online speculation, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We cover the biggest royal stories with context, perspective, and careful analysis. Now, let's begin. For several years, Prince Harry has positioned himself as one of the most determined public figures, challenging the British tabloid press. Since stepping back from royal duties in 2020, he has repeatedly argued that sections of the media crossed ethical and legal lines in the way stories about him and his family were gathered and published. Those concerns became central themes in his memoir Spare, his Netflix documentary, and a series of high-profile court cases. To Harry, these legal battles have never been solely about compensation. He has often described them as a fight for accountability. He has argued that challenging powerful media organizations is necessary to prevent similar practices in the future. His critics, however, see the situation very differently. Many believe Harry has spent years fighting battles that are increasingly difficult to win in the court of public opinion. Others argue that while concerns about media intrusion deserve serious attention, repeated lawsuits have overshadowed many of the charitable causes and public initiatives he once championed. That divide became especially apparent following the latest judgment. The case centered on allegations that journalists working for Associated Newspapers had gathered information through unlawful methods over many years. The claims were strongly denied by the publisher, which maintained throughout the proceedings that its reporting had been conducted lawfully. After extensive legal arguments and the examination of evidence, the court ruled in favor of Associated Newspapers on key issues, representing a significant setback for Prince Harry and the other claimants involved in the case. For Harry, the ruling marked another major chapter in a legal campaign that has stretched across several years and involved multiple newspaper publishers. But unlike previous cases, this judgment immediately triggered a broader conversation. Instead of focusing only on the legal arguments, commentators began asking what this outcome might mean for Harry himself. Would it affect his credibility? Would it change his strategy? Or would it strengthen his determination to continue pursuing similar cases? Those questions became even more pressing because of Harry's public response. Rather than quietly accepting the outcome, he criticized aspects of the decision and expressed disappointment with the result, making it clear that he remained deeply concerned about media accountability. His remarks quickly generated headlines around the world. Supporters viewed his comments as consistent with his long-standing campaign for press reform. Critics argued they reflected an unwillingness to accept an unfavorable judgment. As often happens with stories involving Prince Harry, reactions were sharply divided. Some legal commentators emphasized that losing a case does not necessarily invalidate broader concerns about media ethics. Others pointed out that every legal dispute must ultimately be decided on the evidence presented in court, regardless of wider public debates. That distinction is important. A courtroom is not a referendum on public opinion. It is a place where specific legal claims are examined against established standards of evidence. In this case, the court reached its conclusion after reviewing the arguments from both sides. For many observers, that should remain the starting point for any discussion. Yet the story did not end when the judgment was handed down. Almost immediately, newspapers, television panels, YouTube commentators, and social media users began debating what the outcome meant for Harry's standing, not only as a litigant, but as a public figure. Some argued that the defeat could make future legal challenges more difficult. Others suggested Harry would see it as motivation to continue pressing his case against sections of the British media. Whatever one's opinion, there is little doubt that the ruling has intensified scrutiny of every move he makes. And perhaps that is one of the defining features of Prince Harry's public life today. Few individuals generate such dramatically different interpretations of the same event. To some, he remains someone willing to challenge powerful institutions despite personal cost. To others, he has become increasingly isolated, pursuing legal and public battles that further distance him from both the royal family and much of the British public. The reality is likely more complex. Harry's legal campaign exists within a much larger story, one involving his departure from royal duties, his life in California with Meghan and their children, and his ongoing effort to redefine his role outside the monarchy. Every major legal development now feeds into that broader narrative. And after this latest court defeat, many commentators believe the stakes have become even higher, because beyond the legal arguments lies an even more important question. What does Prince Harry want his legacy to be? Is it that of a prince who challenged institutions he believed had failed him? Or could repeated legal setbacks reshape how history remembers this chapter of his life? Those are the questions now dominating royal commentary. And in the next part, we'll explore why this single court decision has sparked fresh debate about Harry's relationship with the royal family, public opinion, and the road that lies ahead. As the headlines continued to spread, the discussion quickly moved beyond the courtroom itself. For many royal observers, this wasn't simply another legal defeat. Instead, it raised broader questions about Prince Harry's long-term strategy and whether his continued legal battles are helping or hurting his public standing. After all, this latest ruling didn't happen in isolation. Over the past several years, Harry has become almost as well known for courtroom appearances as he once was for royal engagements. Since stepping away from official royal duties, he has pursued multiple legal actions involving newspaper publishers, security arrangements, and other disputes he believes are matters of principle. From Harry's perspective, these cases represent something much bigger than individual headlines. He has consistently argued that challenging what he sees as unlawful media practices is about protecting not only himself, but future generations. In interviews and public statements, he has often described his legal campaign as part of a wider effort to encourage greater accountability. That message continues to resonate with many supporters. They believe Harry has shown a willingness to confront powerful institutions despite the personal and financial cost involved. To them, success isn't measured solely by courtroom victories, but by bringing attention to issues surrounding privacy, media ethics, and public accountability. Others, however, see the situation very differently. Critics argue that repeated legal disputes have increasingly overshadowed Harry's charitable work, including his long-standing commitment to the Invictus Games, veterans' causes, and mental health advocacy. Rather than discussing those initiatives, headlines now frequently focus on court hearings, legal costs, and public disagreements. For a public figure trying to redefine his role after leaving royal life, that presents a difficult challenge. Public image isn't shaped by a single event. It's built gradually through repeated moments that influence how audiences perceive someone over time. Every interview, every appearance, every speech, and every court case. Taken together, they form a larger public narrative. For Prince Harry, that narrative has become increasingly complex. On one hand, he continues to champion causes he has supported for years. On the other, his legal battles often dominate media coverage, making it difficult for other aspects of his work to receive the same level of attention. That reality became especially noticeable following the latest judgment. Instead of conversations centering on Harry's charitable engagements or his upcoming projects, much of the public discussion focused on what the defeat meant for his credibility. Some commentators suggested the ruling could encourage Harry to reconsider aspects of his legal strategy. Others believed it would have the opposite effect, reinforcing his determination to continue pursuing cases he considers important. At this stage, only Harry truly knows how he intends to move forward. What is clear, however, is that public opinion remains sharply divided. Opinion polls over recent years have reflected contrasting views of the Duke of Sussex in Britain and internationally. Some audiences continue to admire his willingness to speak openly about mental health, grief, and personal challenges. Others feel his ongoing disputes with the royal family and repeated criticism of the British press have diminished public sympathy. Those differences are unlikely to disappear overnight. Another important aspect of this story involves the financial implications of lengthy legal proceedings. Complex high court cases often require substantial legal resources, regardless of which side ultimately prevails. While legal costs are determined through established court procedures and can vary depending on the outcome of each case, prolonged litigation inevitably involves significant time, preparation, and expense for everyone involved. That reality has prompted renewed discussion about priorities. Should Harry continue investing so much energy in legal disputes? Or would focusing more heavily on charitable initiatives and public service strengthen his long-term reputation? Again, opinions differ. Some believe both goals can be pursued simultaneously. Others argue that the legal battles inevitably dominate public attention, leaving little room for anything else. Beyond the legal questions lies another issue attracting increasing attention: Harry's relationship with Britain itself. Although he now lives in California with Meghan and their children, his connection to the United Kingdom remains deeply significant. It is the country where he was born, where he served in the armed forces, where he established the Invictus Games, and where many of the defining moments of his public life took place. Every visit to Britain, therefore, attracts enormous interest. Whether attending court hearings, participating in charitable events, or appearing at major national occasions, Harry's presence inevitably generates headlines. Some observers see those visits as evidence that Britain remains central to his identity. Others interpret them as reminders of unresolved tensions that continue to shape his relationship with both the royal family and the British public. King Charles has largely avoided responding publicly to Harry's legal disputes. Buckingham Palace has consistently maintained its long-standing practice of not commenting on ongoing legal proceedings involving family members. That silence has itself become a subject of discussion. Some view it as an appropriate constitutional approach. Others speculate about what conversations, if any, take place privately within the family. The truth is, very little is known about those private discussions, and responsible reporting requires acknowledging that distinction. Public appearances offer only a limited glimpse into relationships that unfold largely behind closed doors. What can be observed, however, is that Harry's legal battles continue to shape public conversations about his future. Will he eventually step back from litigation and focus primarily on philanthropy? Will he continue pursuing media accountability through the courts? Or might a different path emerge altogether? Those questions remain unanswered. Yet one thing seems increasingly certain. This latest judgment has become more than a legal story. It has become another chapter in the evolving story of Prince Harry himself. A story still being written, still debated, and still capable of surprising both supporters and critics alike. And perhaps the biggest question of all is not whether Harry lost this particular case. It's whether this moment ultimately changes the direction of his public life. Because sometimes the most significant consequences of a court decision are not found in the legal documents. They are found in the choices that come afterward.